Mets. Meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife.
And how you doing, how you living, how you feeling, folks? Back to another episode of City Night Lights. Now, of course, I'm your host. My name's Zach, and as always, glad to be back talking to you guys. Now, just kind of want to talk a little Mets baseball. You know, we hit the All-Star break. I feel like it's a good time to kind of go over a lot of the series I missed. Talk a little Mets baseball, you know, where we're at in the standings, kind of how the batting, how the pitchings look this year. Then hit the IR a little bit, and then lastly, we'll talk about some final trade rumors before, you know, maybe we get into something 2 weeks from now, or maybe we'll see what's going on then. But last of my pure speculation. Now, with that being said, the trade deadline is on July 31st, so 2 weeks away. We'll be seeing that come up quite soon. So I do expect the Mets to start making some moves. Now, we'll talk about that later, what I think they're actually going to do. Now, with that being said, to get into the schedule, the Mets had a rough time. I mean, they had a bad 5 series in a row. They got swept by Tampa, swept by the Braves, lost a series to the Phils, tied a 4-gamer with the Braves, and then got swept again by the Pirates. That was horrendous. The hitting was inconsistent. The pitching was horrendous. It didn't feel like anything was working out except for Soto. It just was an unfortunate stretch of games that really kind of set us back because we were having a phenomenal year. I believe we were like 45 and 26. And I mean, obviously now we're 55 and 42, but that's a type of stretch that can really change a season. And really, I think, is going to change the Mets season and really might entice them to do a little bit extra at the deadline, I hope. But we'll see. We'll get into that later, like I said. Then, you know, we ended up taking on the Brewers and beat them in a 3-gamer, taking on the Yankees and beating them in a 3-gamer. I think that was a huge series for the Mets to win. You know, regardless of who wins that New York rivalry series, the winner always comes out hotter on the other side. So I'm glad to see the Mets take that away. And really, I feel like kind of start to right the ship, you know, a good sign of what's to come potentially. Then we took on Baltimore and lost, unfortunately, to 3-gamer. And then moved on to the Royals and beat them 2-1. Now, with that being said, we did finish that stretch 10-17 from top to bottom. I know that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 series. So 27 games, you know, it's not bad. It could have been a lot worse. I feel like them saving it right at the end was a huge thing for them to do. That's a huge deal in terms of our season outlook. You know, it keeps us in the running, keeps us exactly where we want to be. You know, a half game back of the Phils, ready to take the division. So I like to see that. Now, there are some other teams, like we do really need to stay competitive, but I'm not all too worried about the Mets just making the playoffs. The other teams that are still pretty much in it for right now, depending on, you know, what their decision is actually at the deadline. You know, the Cardinals could be interesting. Then you have the Brewers, who another team that could potentially sell. The Cubs, the Reds, the Padres, and the Giants. I feel like definitely the Cubs, the Padres, and the Giants, those are going to be 3 teams that are going to definitely try to get this wild card spot. So going to be very intriguing to see who misses out on that spot later in the year. Now, keep it moving. We'll just go right into the hitting. I don't actually have a lot to say here. I feel like we've just been, you know, singing Pete's praises all year. I feel like he's been there through the good, through the bad. He's been at least decently consistent. Hasn't been just disappearing for huge stretches of games. So I like to see that. Pete's been moving and grooving. He's second in the NL in RBIs. He actually might be second in the league in RBIs with 77. I believe it's just the NL, though. And then one thing I thought was interesting is Juan Soto actually has more home runs than Pete Alonso. It's weird, right? He has 23 home runs to Pete's 21. It's very weird. Juan Soto also has the same amount of walks as Pete does RBIs, 77. So, you know, Juan Soto, he's starting to do things again. He's starting to get his mojo back. So I'm very excited to see what this second half of baseball looks like for Juan Soto. I feel like, you know, we'll get a second half resurgence. Really, hopefully he maintains what he was through June. And then 2 other things I wanted to talk about, or really one other thing I wanted to talk about. I thought it was interesting when I was looking at the stats on Baseball Reference. I noticed Brandon Nimmo and Francisco Lindor have pretty similar stat lines. It's kind of crazy when you look at it. It doesn't seem like that would be real, but it kind of is. Like, Nimmo's batting 259, Lindor's batting 260. Francisco Lindor has 76 strikeouts. Nimmo has 73. They're off by 4 walks. There's a difference of 1 RBI and 1 home run between them, a difference of 1 double. I mean, we're pretty much getting the same player, which I can appreciate. I mean, I love that Nimmo's having a phenomenal year so far. Lindor's off to another great year. I'm glad to see the boys are booming. Now, as of late, yes, we did have that crazy stretch where nobody was doing anything, but I feel like season long, the outlook has been great. These guys have been doing the job they need to do to get the game done, to win the easy games, and to take some of those tough games away, really making sure every single game during the season counts. I think that's a huge deal because this is a team who's consistently disappeared for stretches, long stretches, like months of the season. And to disappear for 5 series, I know that's damn near a month, but I feel like at least they haven't let it all go to waste yet. They've been able to at least create a safe margin that they were, able to maintain at least to a degree. So at least the Mets are still in a decent place. Now the hitting, I feel like definitely after the All-Star break, we'll get back in action. I'm very excited for that. But let's talk about the pitching. I think something that's a little bit more important here. Now, had a lot of injuries with the pitching. Pitching's been kind of up and down, and really my one big gripe with them is no one's really been able to go 7. I mean, hell, they barely get through 6 if they're lucky. I feel like the Mets just aren't getting enough out of the starting pitching spot. Now, they've been pitching phenomenally, but the issue is that we need that extra inning so badly to save the bullpen, and we've been taxing the bullpen for the first 97 games of the year. So it would be nice if we can get a little bit more run out of the starters. Now, with that being said, Sean Manaea coming back, pitching 3 solid innings, 3 innings, 6 strikeouts against the Royals is awesome. I love to see that. I can't wait to see him starting. Having him back in the rotation is going to be a huge value add for this team. They become significantly better, adding a solid, steady arm in the rotation. I'm pumped. You should be pumped too. That is awesome. Now, something else I wanted to talk about, we'll just keep it moving and grooving here. David Peterson having probably the best year of his career. He's thrown 109 innings so far, has 93 strikeouts, and unbelievably, a 3.06 ERA. David Peterson is having the best season of his career. I really, really have enjoyed watching him pitch this year. Hasn't been making me the nervous wreck I'm used to being watching him pitch. It's awesome. I'm glad he's really carrying that playoff success he had a year ago into this season, and I like to see the player that Peterson's starting to become. We'll keep it moving. We'll go down to Kodai Senga. He's been phenomenal. This is one of the guys that we don't get a ton of innings out of, but the innings we do are amazing. He's only pitched 77 innings in 14 games. It's been interesting, like I said, but he's been lights out. The guy has like a 1.36 ERA. Him and Diaz damn near have the same ERA, which is unbelievable. Both sub 2. I mean, these guys are giving us solid innings. I don't think Diaz has let up a run since May. I mean, the guy's been an absolute dominator, and same thing with Kodai. Every time Kodai hits the mound, you know you're getting a solid 5 innings out of him, and you can't beat that. Then, Clay Holmes, nothing more perfect than what he has been able to do this year. I didn't expect him to be a guy to consistently get to 7 innings, at least not this year, but to watch him be as effective as he's been this year, he has a sub 4 ERA. I believe he's at mid to low 3s, and then he has a 98 innings under his belt. It's just awesome to see Clay Holmes. 3.11 ERA. That's actually not bad at all. But I'm glad to see Clay Holmes excelling at the starting position, really being able to be a quality starter. Just awesome thing. I'm glad the Mets were able to get him. I did not think this would work out the way it has, and hopefully it continues to work out this way. Really has just been kind of amazing. Now, let's get on to the current IR. We know the guys that are out for the season, so I'm not going to mention them. But I will say a new guy who's not going to return this year, and I'm very sad and very mad about it, is Daniil Nunez. He's going to undergo Tommy John surgery. This is a guy, I believe, a year or 2 ago, was unbelievably dominant, looked like a special talent out of the bullpen, going to be the setup guy to Diaz, but it doesn't seem like he's just going to get that shot. Another injury, another step on this road for this kid to overcome, and I really hope he does. Daniil Nunez, he's been awesome to watch when he goes out there. I hope he recovers soon. Then we're going to move on to Paul Blackburn. He's currently on a rehab assignment. He's going to start a rehab assignment post All-Star break, but it's Paul Blackburn. He's there to eat innings and fill in if somebody gets hurt. Yeah. Now we'll keep it moving and grooving. Starling Marte, the man who we cannot put in the field, has a bruised knee. He will be coming back post All-Star break. I'm not worried about him at all. He's been great as a DH. Keep him there. Just don't play him in the field, please God. Jesse Winker, another guy. He's been injured all season long. Really haven't been able to see this guy get too much run, and it's been disappointing. Someone I was excited to watch this year. Back inflammation, it looks like he might be around when we travel to San Francisco and make that West Coast trip. I think he might travel with the team, either gets back during that San Fran trip, or maybe we see him test the waters a little bit with a couple pinch hits in game against the Los Angeles Angels. That could be interesting. We'll see where Winker goes in terms of injury, what happens with him. Now, we'll keep it moving. Talked a lot and really quickly, but we'll keep going to Jose Butto. He has an illness. It wasn't really disclosed anywhere, so hopefully he recovers quickly. This is a guy that isn't expected to come back until at least July 21st, so we'll see what happens. All-Star break came at a great time for that. Brooks Raley. This is a guy I really wanted to get to. At a time where our bullpen is getting shelled with injuries and just taxing them from the starting pitching use, Brooks Raley starting to come back. He's been dominating in Double-A in his rehab assignment. He has 9 innings and 13 Ks in just minor league action alone. He looks phenomenal. This is a guy I'm excited to watch come back into our bullpen. A lefty. The Mets need a lefty reliever so badly. I'm so glad Brooks Raley is going to be coming back. This is going to be an awesome, awesome thing. We might see him, get called up to AAA first before we see a call up to the bigs again. But expect Brooks Raley back soon. I would definitely say by the end of the month, Brooks Raley will be on the Mets active day roster, and I'm super excited for that. Then we'll move on to the last guy on the IR report for today, Jose Siri. Jose Siri, he fractured his tibia, and they're expecting to reevaluate him post All-Star break. We're going to see how that goes. It'll be very interesting. I feel like he'll do just fine, but Jose Siri, we'll see what happens. Hopefully he's able to resume baseball activities, and we'll get him going. Now we'll move on to trade rumors. Some of these are my own. Actually, most of these are my own, and then I'll tell you what I think is going to happen with what's actually going to happen with the Mets. So I'm hopeful for some of these things, like maybe Cleveland would sell. Maybe the Mets are finally willing to give up one of these high-priced prospects between Beatty and Vientos and Mauricio and all these guys to maybe get a Steven Kwan to throw out in the corner outfield. I feel like that could be kind of fun. Maybe you throw him in center. I mean, the guy's got 3 Gold Gloves. He's a phenomenal baseball player for Cleveland. Contact guy, just get on the bases, small ball. I would love to see the Mets add like a guy like Steven Kwan to the roster. And then, if Cleveland's going to sell, what's not to say the Mets try not to pick up another setup guy in like Emmanuel Clase. Emmanuel Clase hasn't had the greatest of years this year, but I feel like he's gotten over his rocky road and started to get back to the Emmanuel Clase we've known for a while as a just, dominant hardball pitcher. It wouldn't shock me to see the Mets try to make a run at him as well in my fantasy world, but we'll see what happens. We'll keep moving. I looked at 2 outfielding prospects I think the Mets might potentially pick at. One's on the Rockies. His name is Jordan Beck. Maybe the Rockies just don't believe it in what they got, and the Mets just want to take a shot in a cheaper young guy. That could be interesting. Or they want to take a shot on Luis Robert. I feel like that's going to cost a Blade Tidwell and maybe just a little extra. But I'm not super concerned if we're trading Blade Tidwell and Tyrone Taylor, because he's quite literally Tyrone Taylor 2.0 with just a better ability to steal. And hell, maybe he hits better when there's better competition. The games matter. I mean, this is a guy who's had a lot more success in any point of his career than Tyrone Taylor has. I want to see Luis Robert get back to that form, and I think it's possible being on a team like the Mets where he has players to protect him. And then, let's see. Oh, I had another outfielding prospect I forgot about. Maybe the Rangers, maybe they sell and they want to give the Mets Adolis Garcia, just a absolute home run hitting threat. Hasn't played too bad. He's on a 1-year deal. Nice little cheap value add for the Mets. Could be a fun thing. And then one other thing I've talked about in the past is potentially the Mets go after a Orioles pitching combo. Maybe we go after Felix Bautista or maybe Sagano. I really want them to get Sagano. We'll see what happens there on that front. And then finally, last thing I'll say in trade talk is I feel like the Reds, if they are going to decide to sell, they have so many relievers in that bullpen that are worth a nice little penny. I think it'd be fun to watch the Mets go out and get one of those relievers, whether it's Scott Barlow, whether it's Graham Ashcraft, Taylor Rogers, or Tony Santalinen. I don't know. The picture's blurry. I can't see it too well. But any of those guys, I feel like it could be interesting. They've all had a lot of quality innings this year, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets try and go out and pick up one of those guys as well. Now, what I think the Mets are going to do, I think the Mets might make some very unsexy moves. You know, David Stearns is extremely future-oriented. He's going to have a hard time letting go of Beatty, Vientos, Mauricio, or Acuna, and I don't want to lose Acuna especially, or Mauricio, really. But I think that's a very important point, is just to kind of feel out these prospects, see what's going to become of them, and hopefully they deal them before all their value is gone. But I feel like the Mets, they're going to make some unsexy moves. At the most, they get a guy like Adolis Garcia in terms of the lineup stuff, and then everything else pitching-wise is going to be just pitching. I feel like a lot of relief, maybe a starter, but nothing super crazy. Keep the costs low and the potential high. I feel like that's kind of been the Mets' way the last 2 years, so it wouldn't shock me if that's what they do. You know, Stearns really just doesn't want to repeat the PCA deal, the PCA for a half season of Javi Baez. I feel like that's what he's super afraid of, and I get it. Like, it's scary giving up a prospect like this, you know, such a high-end prospect that has the talent to get it done, and, you know, you give it up for a half year of Javi Baez. So I like the move Stearns made. I just hope we make something a little splash, you know, just a little drop in the pond. That would be nice. Now, with that being said, that's kind of all I have to talk about the Mets for right now. Not much else. I mean, we do have a couple all-stars. We got Pete, we got Lindor, and we also have Diaz. It's a shame that Nimmo and Soto didn't make the roster. I feel like, you know, we've been talking for years. Will the all-star voting change? Who knows? I don't think there's a need for all 30 teams to be there, because the White Sox don't need to have a guy there, do they? Now, that's kind of all I have for you guys today. Now, with that being said, I really appreciate you guys coming out, listening, joining me, taking your time, spending it with me. Now, have a good one, and stay idiotic.